Could Jason Kidd be the Chicago Bulls' next head coach? I got an interesting twist and plot point on that could lead it to happening. We're talking about it all and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central, Chicago Bears Central, YouTube pages, and podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel. During the tournament, FanDuel is offering $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. I want to do something that's a little bit, I don't know, I won't say it's controversial. I think controversial is a little bit too strong of a wording for it there, but it's something that I know a lot of Bulls fans aren't necessarily going to agree with. And in no way am I saying that this is the perfect offseason, this is the perfect replacement, or anything like that for the Chicago Bulls. But me and Pat have been talking about the Chicago Bulls and the next head coaching search, right? The possibility that Billy Donovan could be leaving the Chicago Bulls is something that it's been talked about a lot. We got new details that came out yesterday that Billy Donovan has actually coveted the North Carolina job potentially for about 20 years. That even while he was at Florida, even before coming to the NBA, that the UNC job was always a job that people around Billy Donovan knew that he could be interested in. And with the talk about Billy Donovan and, you know, the split between him and Arturas Karnisovas and all that type of stuff, you know, that could be there, that it's a likely, it's a possibility. I won't say that it's likely yet, but it's a possibility that the Bulls could be forced to move on from Billy Donovan this offseason because Billy's just ready to take that next step and go somewhere else. And we've been talking about a number of candidates. We talked about all the coaches that are in the Final Four in the NCAA. We've talked about Taylor Jenkins potentially being a guy. We talked about Mike Malone. We touched on Jason Kidd, the possibility of him being the Bulls coach a little bit yesterday, right? One of the things that have come out in the recent weeks is that Jason Kidd wants to move to the front office, right? He wants to kind of have a more front office role. That is something that reportedly he's coveted here, right? Or coveted. And the Dallas Mavericks are doing a search for their new GM, and Jason Kidd is not one of the guys there. You know, reportedly they want Jason Kidd to consider staying on as the head coach, but not necessarily moving into the front office. That's not something that they are really interested in or really looking for. Jason Kidd is a guy that has a 51 win percentage overall as a coach. He's had 2 seasons of winning 61% of his games. And then he's had another 4 seasons of being over 50% win percentage. So he's only had 3 losing seasons the entirety of his NBA career so far, right? But the thing that I think could make it interesting here for the Chicago Bulls is that we've heard that the Bulls are interested in making a front office shakeup. Mark Eversley, who's basically a figurehead, right? And I think when you look at Billy Donovan and how much he has to talk to media because Mark Eversley, the GM, doesn't, and AK is the president of basketball operations, you typically don't see those guys a lot. Could the Bulls do something that they haven't done a lot in their career and offer Jason Kidd up both the GM and the head coaching role so that Jason Kidd gets to step into the front office like he wants to? He has the oversight of a guy like Arturas Karnisovas to still be a guy that's kind of guiding that. And then you have Jason Kidd operating basically in the role that Billy Donovan does anyway, of being both the GM and the head coach, because Mark Eversley isn't seen at all. I'm not saying that this is perfect. I don't even want Jason Kidd to be the Chicago Bulls head coach. You guys know I'm a Chris Quinn, Sam Cassell. Those are the guys that I would prefer. We're going to get to those guys more on. But just a question, right? Like, would the Bulls be willing to do something like that for something that they haven't really done ever in the history of their franchise? Will the Bulls offer Jason Kidd, say, hey, we want you to come over and head coach for us. We want you to develop Modest. We want you to develop the top 10 pick that we got. You're going to be really good for Josh Giddey, a pass-first point guard who early Jason Kidd and early Josh Giddey numbers are very similar. So maybe you get in a guy in Jason Kidd that can have a vision for exactly how to develop Josh Giddey to be more. Because keep in mind, Jason Kidd developed into being a solid three-point shooter towards the end of his career and things like that. Could that be kind of a natural synergy there? That's the question that I want to present here with this conversation. Again, not saying necessarily that it's the best choice, that he's the best coaching option at all or stuff like that, but considering that he could very well leave Dallas this season and that he wants some front office responsibilities, Could the Bulls offer him something like that? It's just a question, right? I'm again not saying that it's likely. I'm not saying that you guys, that any of us should be overly excited for that. But I do think that there is a chance in that could very well happen for this team. Is that you could be forced to, depending on what else the coaching candidates are, we still have to question, like, how many coaches are going to want to come to Chicago with everything that's going on here. We know that coaches do like to, there are coaches that like to take on the challenge of being able to turn around a franchise. You have young players that you can offer, guys like Josh Giddey, Modest Buzelis, Noah Essengay, the top 10 pick. And there are coaches that would look at that and say, listen, I get a young roster that we can completely have some flexibility to mold it the way that we want to. Could Jason Kidd be a guy that can come in there and look at this opportunity and say, listen, if you give me GM and head coaching duties with all the money that we have, the first round pick that we have, and I really get to mold a roster kind of like I want to, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do some business there. Maybe the GM role is on a trial basis where he learns and works behind AK. It's just an interesting scenario that I thought about in putting this episode together. Now, I was like, well, Jason Kidd as just a head coaching option, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. It would feel like a mid move, but in offering him the GM role also, and that also being a shift that you have. And then the Bulls can sell it as, they're going to try to sell it as, well, we feel very confident about Jason Kidd's vision. Jason Kidd's going to come in. He's going to have a voice in this. It adds to the collaborative nature of the relationship they want between the head coach and the front office. It's just an intriguing possibility. I don't know how I'm still working through how I feel about it if that were to happen in reality, but it's still intriguing. They said that's an intriguing scenario to be honest. It makes you think, right? Jerry says, question, Haize, will the Bulls make moves the next day after their last game, or will they? You can't make moves. Free agency doesn't. Oh, you talking about as far as like firing people? I mean, so what's going to happen here is that the season's going to end for the Bulls. We're going to have the season-ending press conferences where you have players, you have coaches. They're going to have their exit interviews. But then that meeting that happens between Billy Donovan and AK isn't going to happen immediately the day after the season ends. The last that I heard is that they're expected to have it in that kind of week timeline between the end of the season and then before they start gearing up and getting ready for the draft, because they're going to want their new head coach if Billy does move on. So I'd say that you probably won't look at it happening the day after the season ends, but probably about a week after the season ends is probably where you're going to start. If moves happen, if they move on from AK or move on from Eversley or Billy Donovan walks away, you're probably looking at about a week before those decisions start getting made. And, something came out yesterday from ESPN that UNC, because of the transfer portal, they want this decision being made as soon as possible, right? Now, the end of the season happens in 8 days for the Chicago Bulls, 8-9 days. So, I don't think that that's going to ruin UNC's timeline, but UNC does want a resolution to their coaching search pretty quickly because the transfer portal, getting ready, NIL money, they want all that together soon. Jason Kidd, do not underestimate him. He has a vision and an excellent IQ basketball. It's not hard to manage if you're recruiting. He has the leadership experience. Hey, there you go. Like I said, I'm still working. So just a little peek behind the curtain. I put this topic together probably about 15 minutes before I came live, right? So I haven't really had a huge amount of time to really work through my exact thoughts on how I would feel about Jason Kidd being a GM and / coach. But if you're right and he has the vision, I mean, you got to look at it. Like Jason Kidd had Giannis early, right? He, he's worked with Cooper Flagg. Like Jason Kidd, I can't think of anything that to me says he's not a good developing coach, right? So even if Jason Kidd really just wants to be in the front office, let's say you do it a 3-year deal, right? Let's say you say, all right, Jason, we want you to set the tone for this next roster. You'll be the GM and the head coach. And then in 3 years, you can phase just into the GM role and we'll find a new head coach to continue what the groundwork you've done in developing these young pieces. We have seen things like that happen. Brad Stevens handing off to Joe Mazzulla. Well, initially it was Ime Udoka and then moving into the front office, right? Like we've seen things like that happen. Pat Riley moving into the front office from coaching, Eric Spoelstra taking over, right? Handing off that. So, there's been situations that have done that. Now, usually it's winning franchises that do that, right? But the Bulls are trying to become a winning franchise. So maybe they do something like that. So, it's just it's an intriguing, to use the phrase that David used here. It's an intriguing scenario that would be something completely different than we've ever seen the Chicago Bulls do. But we know that the Bulls, they value the relationship between head coach and the front office, so why not mold those roles? AK is doing the day-to-day anyway. He's basically operating as both the president and the GM. Mark Eversley, we don't know what he does, so maybe that could be a path there. Maybe. So let me know what you guys think on that down below, though, whether you're watching this live or after the fact. I'd love to hear from you guys on that one. We're going to continue the conversation, though. We're going to get back into our draft bag. We're talking about Haize Steinbach and him as a potential draft option for the Chicago Bulls right after this. But before we get into that, we got to get into a message from one of our sponsors, and that is FanDuel. The tournament is here, and it's one of the best times of years. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets, it's nonstop action from tip to final cutdown. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in on the action all tournament long. But here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same-game parlays for even bigger potential payouts. It's the perfect for tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. That was not the sound effect that I expected. I did not expect that sound effect. All right, there we go. We got to get the music going. My soundboard went through a reset. Some of my stuff got reorganized, but there we go. That's crazy. Record scratch was crazy. With that said, though, let's get into the next topic of the day, man. I want to talk about, we've been making our way through draft prospects. I want to talk about Haize Steinbach for the Chicago Bulls. This is a 6'11", 220-pound German forward/center who plays for Washington right now. This season, 30 games played. He played 34.6 minutes per game, 11.8 rebounds, 1.2 blocks, 1.1 steals per game as well. In that time, he averaged 18.5 points per game with that as well. Now, Haize Steinbach is a player that has a very high floor, is what I would say. The floor is extremely high for Haize. The ceiling is the question there, right? And depending on who you ask, you get a different question or different answer on the ceiling of Haize Steinbach. Now, one thing that his offensive box plus minus, excellent. His defensive and offensive rebounding numbers, excellent. He's one of the best combinations of offense and defensive rebounding that you're going to find in this draft. And that's important, right? We know that rebounding is a really good thing. His rebounding rate is extremely great. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's really efficient as a player, right? And that's the things that you look for when you talk about players with high floors but lower ceilings, right? The thing that you want to look at is, okay, what do they do? What do they excel at? What are they excellent at? He's a 34% three-point shooter, 57% from the field. He's only taking about 2 3-pointers per game. But depending on how you like your big, you want your big to be able to hit threes. You don't have to have a big that's a 3-point shooter, right? And that's the thing there. Also, the assist, right? 1.6 assists per game, which means that he's not going to do a lot of the ball handling or anything like that. You're not using him to create, but it does open up opportunities for Josh Giddey, Modest Buzelis to do more of their ball handling, Trey Jones, stuff like that. I don't hate Haize Steinbach, right? The thing is that I think there are players with a lot higher ceilings that the Bulls could go after, especially if they're at 9 or 10. But if the Bulls fall down the lottery, because I think the thing that we have not talked about a lot is the potential of the Bulls to fall 4 spots. We talked a lot about the Bulls moving in to the top 4, but also what the Bulls can do is they can drop down 4 spots. So if they finish at number 9 with where they are now, they can drop as low as 13th if the teams below them actually win the lottery. So if that happens, if that, which is the worst case scenario, happens for the Bulls, I don't hate Haize Steinbach as an option for the Bulls if that ends up being the case. I don't love him either, but I don't hate him if that ends up being the case of what they can go to. Great question here. Is he another Laurie in the making? I would say yes and no. I think offensively their games are similar, but I think that Haize likes to bang down low a little bit more than Laurie. Laurie is more of a finesse player, right? So stylistically, they're different in the sense that Haize is more, he welcomes the physicality, right? Which I like in a big. He welcomes the physicality. There's a reason why Laurie's best position has kind of been the 3. Like Laurie, even with the Jazz, right? Even with the Cavs, that's something that Billy Donovan moved him to that he didn't really want to do here, but then he ended up having to do that over his career. Laurie's kind of better as a 3 because he has more finesse. I don't really view Haize Steinbach as a finesse player. I view him more as like, that's why I do think he could legitimately end up being a center in the league. He's listed as a power forward, but I think that he could, if he puts on another 20 pounds, right, which is a lot, he's 220 now, I can see him being more so a center. And that's because he does welcome the physicality. That is because he's a better rebounder. He can hit the three a little bit. So I think there's a little bit difference in that. If I had to comp him to a player, I'd say that he's less athletic Julius Randle. If that's kind of more of a way to look at it, right? Like less athletic Julius Randle, but he has that same kind of motor is the way that I look at it. And maybe that's not the best. Maybe that's not the best comp for him either, but that's kind of the thing off the top of my head that comes there. But I love him as a player. I think that, depending on where you draft that, you can get really good value because the floor is extremely high for Haize, right? The floor is high. And that's something that I have talked a lot about with AK is that he hasn't always considered the floor. He's looked very much at the ceiling and been focused on that. But I think the floor for Haize Steinbach is excellent. Like, I think at minimum, Haize will turn into a double-double guy, a tough double-double guy for you, right, on your team that can start or come off the bench. I think that's at worst for him. I could see him being a double, and I don't mean like an 18 and 12 guy, but I mean literally a 10 and 10 guy that can also average a steal and a block per game. So if the thing is, if you're going to bet on floor, and I tell you the floor of a player is a guy that can get you 10 points, 10 rebounds, a block and a steal per game, that's not a bad floor. The problem just becomes in this draft, you're always trying to nail the ceiling. There are a lot of guys in this draft that are going to turn into all-stars potentially, right? Do I see that for Haize? Maybe, right? But I know for a fact, if you want to go into this draft and you want to get a player that you feel is at minimum going to be a solid starter for you, I think Haize Steinbach could be that. What's going on, Pat? Glad to have you in the building. We have
it's almost like I'm supposed to be here on time. That's second sleep.
You missed the topic that I knew you were going to. So I talked about the Jason Kidd topic, and I'll throw this to you real quick, right? And I know we touched on it a little bit yesterday, and I had mentioned that the rumors coming out of Dallas is that Jason Kidd wants to move to the front office. So the way that I presented it, Pat, was what if the Bulls offer Jason Kidd the GM and the head coach role and say, you can be both with this team. You can be the GM, you can be the coach. And what that does, it allows, we want you to be the guy that develops Modest, Josh Giddey, Noah Essingen, our top 10 pick this year. We want you to set the floor. Basically, Mark Jackson it. Then after that, if you do good, we can move you to just the GM. We can bring in a new guy to be the head coach to continue what you brought here. How do you think about that as a potential for Jason Kidd?
We don't see that work very often, even with good head coaches.
It's true.
Doc Rivers did the GM head coach role. It didn't really work. I think
was he the GM in Boston?
No, with the Clippers.
Oh, I almost forgot, bro. I've completely blocked out his time period there with the Clippers. I'm not even gonna hold you, bro.
I mean, that's his second best tenure. Well,
no, you're right. I just blocked it out.
But yeah, like Thibs was the GM head coach in Minnesota in his time there. Like, it puts a lot of pressure on one person in the building, and I think we're just in a day and age where, there's a lot more that has to be done. Back in the day, it was a lot easier to identify who the best players were. Now there's a lot of young men that have talent, but you not only have to evaluate the talent, you got to evaluate the drive, you got to evaluate, what kind of leader they're going to be depending on where you're drafting in the draft. Like, there's so much that goes into the GM role and yes, you do have guys that are under you as far as scouts and things like that, but I feel like that is too much of a load for any one person to have to deal with. And so even if, like, I thought Jason Kidd was an elite coach, I would say that's too much.
Yeah, well, and the reason why I would say that is a little bit different is because we still know AK is making most of the decisions.
Yeah.
Right. But it's basically giving Jason Kidd the role and title that he wants while also saying, hey, we really want you to be the guy to develop these young players that we have. We want you guys to set the tone for that. With AK still being as heavily in the day-to-day decision-making that he is, I don't know if he'd have the same weight to carry as like Doc Rivers did with the Clippers or Tibbs did with Minnesota. So maybe there's a little bit of that part of it, but fair statement there.
Yeah, I think the goal is, though, to get AK to make as little decisions as possible. You know what I mean? Like, bring in a GM that knows what he's doing and doesn't just fade into the background like the Muppet.
I mean, and listen, and part of the thing that I said too is that, Billy Donovan does all the talking anyway, like a GM should. So you give Jason Kidd that role from the top, like, because that's we're gonna pay you for it. So
listen, now there's a scenario I'd be intrigued in. You just move Billy up and tell him make all the decisions. You tell AK to shut up, and then you give Jason Kidd.
See that'll never happen because Billy doesn't know how to do those decisions. He said it enough. He doesn't know how the front office and contracts work. So I don't think he's ready for that yet.
Listen, you sometimes you learn the trial by fire way. You know what I mean? The one thing that I know Billy is ready for is he's a talent evaluator. I know that he can find talent. We have seen that he's kind of getting Tom Thibodeau here. And if Haize Steinbach can be some talent in that regard, I think that'd be interesting too.
Yeah. So we'll keep it going a little bit on the Haize thing, just so you can give your thoughts on Haize Steinbach. We do got to get into it. Are you ready to do your ad reads? You want me to do them, Pat?
Give me like 30 seconds and I'll be ready to do my ad reads. As we got to talk about a little bit more on Haize Steinbach, but we also got to get into P. Will and just how garbage he's actually been. But first, we got to tell you guys all about Game Time. You see, I did that professional to the mug right there. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that's the part that hasn't always been so simple. That is why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I used the Game Time app the other day when I was looking to go to a Chicago Bulls game, but I thought better of myself. But I could have had tickets locked in within minutes. Zone deals stood out as something where you allow Game Time to pick the seats for you and save the seats, and you save money. Great last minute options too with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NBA. Use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. We also got to tell you guys all about Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction market changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can take part, live live in a market powered by the people. You're no longer just a spectator, play by play. You decide, trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures, cleared swaps, trades involving significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant swap firm. More Locked On Bulls coming up next.
You missed it earlier, so I did my transition for my first ad read, and I don't know if you did the latest update to your Roadcaster. I did it. And so it reset the board back to like the first page of sound effects. So it was just a record scratch. I had to go back. I'm like, oh no, not the record scratch. But all right, I talked about Haize Steinbach and my thought on him being a player that has an extremely high floor, really efficient. And I think that's a key that you're looking at, especially later. You know, if the Bulls do move down the draft or whatever, they get some unluck, lottery odds. But I like him as a guy with a really high floor. The ceiling is a little bit questionable. How do you feel about Haize?
To me, when I look at Haize, I mean, you want another Josh Giddey on the floor? Because when you talk about somebody who, it almost feels like when you watch his game, he knows what the defense wants to do, and he knows where they're not going to be, and can facilitate the ball to that spot or get himself in position to that spot. I think that is the one thing that I continue to see with Haize. Like, he's just, the IQ on this young man, it's the IQ for him overcomes whatever talent or athletic deficiencies you may feel that he has. I think as far as versatility, he can handle the basketball well in transition. He's got really good size and passes the ball well, as I was saying, for his size. And the one thing that I do love about him, and it's probably the biggest thing out of all the people that we've talked about, Haize is somebody who I already can see is very comfortable playing off ball and knows where to put himself to give himself the best advantage playing off ball. I think potentially he's one of those weird ones where you watch his shooting mechanics and you're like, hey, it looks great. Why don't you make it more? But outside of that, I think that the consistency is something that can develop at the NBA level. You don't have to change his jump shot to feel comfortable about his jump shot. So I do like Haize.
I mean, like he's a 37% 3-point shooter. He just doesn't take a lot of them.
It's the game in, game out though. Again, I go with the game by games, right? There's the 37% is, and he's going to shoot a lot more at the NBA. That is the reality of it. But on day in, day out, are you the consistent 3-point shooter? He has the hot days. He's kind of where Modest is right now, right? Isn't Modest 37% right now? 36?
No, Modest is 36. Yeah, 36%.
36%. We know Modest ain't an everyday 3-point shooter, but Modest ain't an everyday 3-point shooter. For me with Haize, I think you can get that consistency a little bit more with him. But outside of that, I think it's weird, bro. Like it's the skinny draft. The only knock that I really got on him is his size and physicality.
I mean, he's 220 pounds at 20 years old. That's a pretty good place to start off. He's not like Noah Essengate started at 196. So.
No. He's not the lower ones, but I think he gets moved off his spot a little bit too easy.
That's fair.
His is more learning. He has everything. It's more learning to utilize it.
Yeah, I mean, He also doesn't take a lot of 3-pointers. He's only averaging, I think, 2 per game. So, like you said, he's gonna probably. I still don't want I don't need my big to take a bunch of 3-point shots. I need them to be able to hit them when they need to, and I think that he could probably develop into that. But he's gonna need those reps to grow confidence in that for sure.
Yeah, 100%. He has all the tools already, though. It's not like some of the other guys that we've looked at and we've said, there's a potential for him to add this, but that's down the road. He comes in with this already. To me, Haize has the potential to have all of it. And it's really just getting the right coach in his ear and telling him, hey, like, plant your flag here. Don't let people move you off of your spot. Knock down this shot. Like, just building those reps, building that consistency and getting used to the NBA game.
For sure. P. Will, before we get up out of here, he has been listed as a trade target by Bleacher Report, actually listed as the Bulls' most likely trade target on the Bulls roster. Pat, I don't know what the writers at Bleacher Report are smoking, but if they think any other team is targeting P. Will, like who did AK pay to write this article?
Bro, I'm not listening to P. Will. I'm not talking about P. Will as a trade piece. Who's taking him? Who would want him? There's no coach with that ego. There's no coach in the NBA that's got that ego.
There's a coach sitting around like, you know what? I can develop P. But it would be a hell of a thing if you're the coach that can get P. Will to be a consistent NBA starter, bro. Do you know how much that would be? Like you would forever be able to get you would have a job for the next 20 years.
Yeah, you'd be a guy.
Yeah. No, I'm the coach that made P. Will work,
bro. I don't even know what to say about like P. Will being a trade target. I would say for who? Does Bleacher Report know it takes 2 players to tango or 2 teams to tango? And if AK can find a way to trade P. Will, more than likely it's going to be because AK is saying that the Bulls will eat a portion of that contract that is left. And then they just have to pay the remaining. Like, there's no way somebody's taking P. Will. P. Will's going to be on this team for 3 more years, 2 more years, because somebody will probably take a chance on him in that final year.
P. Will is going to be here, bro. Like, all we can hope is that we improve the roster enough to where P. Will don't play. Like, I hope coming into next season, Noah Essengate and Leonard Miller show enough in training camp to where they're ahead of P. Will. Like, that's the point that we have to be in. We talked yesterday about the last 11, 12-ish games for P. Will. It's terrible, bro. It's not just when you look at a 4th overall pick, giving what P. Will is giving to the team or lack thereof. Like you can't be playing no play. I'm sorry, unless you're Ben Wallace or your role is strictly defense, you can't play 20 minutes and average 4.7 points per game. That's unacceptable.
Bro really turned into Otto Porter Jr. I remember making that comparison, and I was like, I kind of see a little Otto Porter in his game. And I'm just like, I remember us being like, please, God, no, not Otto Porter Jr. He really turned into Otto Porter Jr. in every way. Like,
but did so Hell, Otto Porter Jr. was at least, 27, I think, when he finally started falling off and just
Otto Porter Jr.
terrible.
started dealing with injuries when he finally started falling off. Like, it wasn't like, I guess P-Will has dealt with injuries, but it wasn't, he just stopped being good at basketball. But Otto Porter, even like when people were saying, hey, you got to do more, like we need you to be more aggressive, we need you to want this a little bit more. Otto Porter was averaging 17. Like, P-Will has averaged 9 literally since his freshman year of college. Probably in high school too. I'll bet you he averaged 9. I don't get it. Shout out to you though. Your family set. You got 90 mil, bro.
Hey, bro, 90 million. He got generational wealth now, bro. He can never, you know what? And maybe that's what maybe people will finally just like, you know what? I'm not good at this, but I got 90 million. And even with your agent taking their percentage, you're probably still walking away with 65, 70 million.
Yeah.
P-Will can never shoot another basketball. He's set for life. All because AK drafted him at number 4 overall and then wanted to double down on the mistake so it didn't look as bad and signed him to a long-term deal.
Bro, he been here so long.
Bro, he's the longest tenured Bull, bro.
Bro, and it's not like he's the longest tenured Bull because like everyone else is gone. He's been here 6 years.
6, bro.
This man got a long time. He 1 year away from a pension. I think in the NBA it's 7 years for a pension. He 1 year away from a pension. And is gonna get it. And y'all couldn't sign Tony Snell. Hey man, appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love as always. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer.
Man, listen, you can follow me at CEO Haize if you choose to do so. Make sure you guys go to LockedOnBulls.supercast.com to sign up for the Everyday Club, where you get exclusive access to the Locked On Discord. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, and Fubo TV. Basically, anywhere you want us, you can get it. We'll catch you guys bright and early on Monday, y'all. Peace.